it's important that you understand that just like a dream, you dream and it's something that you just be like, wow, did that just happen? And then you wake up from that dream and then you're back in the real world. But the thing about dreams is this: absolutely nothing wrong with them. But you have to make your dream a reality. This is not a fairy tale. The world that you live in is what it is, and you are a part of it. You have to be willing to work towards something to get what you want. Wishing, hoping, all of those things are great. But what do you do with them? How far are you willing to go with it? It has to get to a point where you have to wake up from your dream. You have to just say, hey, I'm up. I'm ready to move. I'm ready to do something.
Everybody hopes things will get better. The future does not get better by hope. It gets better by plan.
Because we can sit back and imagine ourselves being in a better place, doing things with our lives. But if we're not willing to work and apply ourselves to what we really want out of life, then there's nothing going to happen.
I used to have the affliction called passive hope. It's bad. Probably what's even worse than that is happy hope. Now that is really bad. That's bad. The guy's 50 and he's broke and he's still smiling. See, that's not good.
How many times have you woke up in the morning and you just question yourself and say, what, why, and why not? Sometimes you don't really have the answers to it. But the best way to get the answers is by your actions. Traveling down that road, taking every responsibility and every action you can to make something happen for yourself. The process is not going to always be exactly what it is you want, but it's a process. And it takes time, it takes grit, and it also takes understanding. A lot of times we tend to lose sight of what it is we have to go through to get what we want out of life.
So get serious about your goals, put them on paper, write them down. Business goals, financial goals, family goals. I mean, there's so many things to work on this, that if you don't get busy and work on it, sure enough, the time will pass. And sure enough, 5 years from now, you'll wind up where you don't want to be, wearing what you don't want to wear, driving what you don't want to drive, being what you don't want to be. Now's the time to fix it.
No matter how old we get, no matter how much we experience things in this world, we are all students of life. And we have to learn. And that's how we grow. The struggles are going to happen. The victories are going to happen. The failures are going to happen. But what do you do? How do you go forward and get exactly what it is you want? These things are essential. And this is what it takes. It takes passion. It takes will. It takes faith. And being able to understand that it's not going to be easy. It was never designed to be easy.
I mean, it is what it is, you know. I mean, we just have to deal with it. A lot of people are looking at this the wrong way. There is a blessing in everything. Behind every moment of adversity in your life, there is a blessing and a lesson. Pain always leaves a gift. Always. Oh, this door closed, my business closed, my job closed. When a door gets shut, all you gotta do is walk up the hall. It's more doors. You ain't gotta worry about because your company closed. This ain't the only company. Could it be that there's a different door that he wants you to go through that was better than the door that got shut in your face? Just keep moving, man. It ain't nothing.
You look at other people's success stories and you're like, wow, they made it. Wow, how did they? What can I do? Why can't I be like this person? You don't need to be like anybody else but yourself. Some people made it. Some people worked very hard to get what they got. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you can't do it. It's a process. And everybody's not going to believe in your dream. Everybody's not going to believe in your vision. Everybody's not going to follow what you believe in. But you have to believe in yourself. You have to fight and believe in your abilities. You got to understand that there's someone out there waiting for you. But you have to present yourself a certain way. You have to bring something to the table. Everybody's out here looking for something. Everybody wants something, but some people are not willing to work for it. So what are you prepared to do? Keep going after what you want. Don't ever doubt for 1 minute that you are done. Don't ever doubt for 1 minute that it's over. Don't ever doubt for 1 minute that you don't have something special within you. We were all born with gifts. We were all born for something. We just have to apply what we've been given. So many people give up on their life. So many people take their lives because they don't understand. They don't know why they're here. When you were born for something. You were born to excel at something. But you got to fight and you got to believe that there's something unique and special about you.
I say to you that there is a Nelson Mandela in you. That kind of commitment, that kind of spirit, that kind of vision of allowing yourself to be used by life is in you. That all of us came here to do something, to make a difference. And in a historical context, the world will never be the same again because you came this way. With whatever hand that life has dealt us, we have the freedom of spirit. We can go through life whining and weeping, or we can have the kind of spirit that people will say, hey, there's a blessing to be around that person. And what we have got to do is know that there's something about you. There's something about us. There's a power in you that regardless of what happens to you, you can stand up inside of yourself. I think that's what the poet meant when he says, out of the night that covers me, black as a pit from pole to pole, I thank whatever gods there may be for my unconquerable soul. You have an unconquerable soul.
It's okay to dream, but you got to make your dream a reality. Having that hope, having faith, that's beautiful. But now you got to apply it, and you got to go out there, and you got to go get it, and you got to fight for it. No matter what happens, no matter how many people knock you down, you keep looking up, you get up, and you keep pushing forward because it's there for you. And you deserve it. But the only way you're going to get it is you got to work for it.
My challenge to you this week is, I want you to write down a certain set of activities and behaviors you can run this week instead of hours, because I see a lot of people cheating their way to success and say, I was at the office for 16 hours, but you only ran 2 appointments. You were on Facebook newsfeed the entire day. You were on Twitter full on. You watched 17 videos on YouTube. You watched 22 videos on Facebook, all the funny ones. You kept going and going. You got caught up, and an hour and a half later, no one knows it, you've been on Facebook watching an hour and a half of videos. And I hear this so many times nowadays. Look, my challenge to you isn't how many hours you're going to be at the office, because that doesn't count as work. My challenge to you is write down activity. For me, it was 200 phone calls per week minimum, and it was 20 appointments per week minimum. And I wouldn't go home until I hit those 2 numbers. This is why for the longest time, I would work 6.5 days, and I would take half a day off on Sunday. Always. My biggest money-making days, historically, till today, is Saturday. You know why? Because most people don't work Saturdays. I work Saturdays while everybody else is kicking back. They've been kicking back for a day and a half. I'm still going to go out there and get something in there. So my challenge to you, write down activity, not hours. Write down a number of activity you can do this week for your business, whatever it is that you're doing, and do not go home until you hit those numbers. And then next week, try to beat those numbers. Not hours at the office, number of calls, number of people you reach out to, number of doors you knock. It has to be based purely on activity. And then you'll figure out the math on how many hours, actual minutes it takes per appointment, per call. And then that's when I say 80 hours a week of real work activity. That's my challenge to you. You do that consistently for the rest of the year. Let me tell you, this could end up being the greatest year of your life and the beginning of the most of your life to come.
So, when I was just backstage, I was looking at the Declaration of Independence, which I do quite regularly, make sure that I've got especially the introductory statements formulated properly. And the introductory statements, I won't quote them precisely, but they lay out a series of propositions. And the first is that we hold these truths to be self-evident, that people are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, that they're equal, and that government is to govern by the consent of individuals. And those are axiomatic statements, right? They're the sort of statements that you build a system from. You have to accept the statements first before you can build the system. It's analogous in some sense to Euclidean geometry, right? There's a set of axioms and you accept them, and then you can build a system, but you have to accept the axioms. But you don't have to accept the axioms, that's the thing. And one of the things that's very much worth understanding is that the current culture war that we're embroiled in, the proposition that those truths that are laid out in the Declaration of Independence are self-evident is no longer accepted by a large number of people, let's say, in the intellectual academy. And I would say that's particularly true of the postmodernists. The postmodernists profess skepticism about meta-narratives, large-scale stories that perhaps might serve as uniting structures for people's own cognitive contents, but also that unite groups of people across large swaths of territory. They profess skepticism about the validity of those narratives. And yet, well, the problem with that is it leaves you nowhere, because if you don't have a uniting narrative, a uniting story, a uniting ethos, you don't have an explanation for your existence in the world, and you don't have a direction. And that's not helpful, because you can't live without an explanation for your existence in the world and a direction. Or if you do live under those conditions, you're bound to be miserable. And the reason you're bound to be miserable is because, and I would say that this is technically true, that almost all the positive emotion that you're going to experience in your life is a consequence of pursuing valuable goals. It's not a consequence of attaining them. It's a consequence of positing them, aiming at them, and then observing yourself moving towards them. And that the sense that accompanies that, and we know the neurobiology of this sense actually quite well, the sense of that is one of forward movement and engagement and meaning and accomplishment. It's something like that. Hope, that's another way of thinking about it. And it's the antidote in some sense to the flip side of life, which is the fact that it's nasty, brutish, and short, as Thomas Hobbes put it. And that's inalienable as well. There's no escape from the limitations and suffering of life. And so, in order for that not to become overwhelming, and then that can easily become overwhelming, and often does in people's lives, then you need a countervailing set of propositions that you can act out and embody to endow that limitation with worth.